Good evening, everyone. God bless you. I want to welcome you to the Audit Finance Committee 2025 Agency Budgets Review. I'm going to say this, I believe all the department heads are here except one. You'll be asked a series of questions related to your budget information that you have pre-submitted to this committee for a review. Please answer as completely as you can. However, if any answers to our questions require more than a brief explanation, you may indicate so and provide a more thorough response to the committee in writing via our ledgebudget@albanycountynY.gov email. Also, in order to complete our examination on your budgets, it may be necessary to forward you some additional questions after tonight's hearing. All right, so we are going to move forward, and I am going to ask the majority council to take attendance, please.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Willingham.
Present.
Reedy.
Here.
Clay is excused. Camisto.
Here.
Demalowitz.
Here.
Ray Joyce.
Here.
Lakakis. Yes. Bergdorf.
Here.
And Grimm.
Here.
You have a quorum.
I also would like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Beston, Mr. Cleary, also Mr. Conway, our Chairwoman Cunningham, let's see here, our Majority Leader, Mr. Feeney, our Chairperson of the Health, which is, Ray is also Chairperson of the Health Committee. Also, Mr. Moriello, our Minority Leader. Yes, Mr. Ricard is here. He's Chairperson of Public Works. And Ms. Rosano, she is the Chairperson of Social Services. Thank you very much. Somebody else? I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, that's right, I did. Also, I want to acknowledge the presence of Ms. Larilliard, Ms. McLean Lane, Mr. Miller, Ms. Petto. Did I get everyone? I think that is everyone right now. Thank you very much. All right. We're going to get started, and this is what we will do. I'll give you the order of business for tonight. Is the county executive, and their information starts on page 94 in your budget book. The county clerk, which will be the clerk, Bruce Sidley, he's here, page 203. The district attorney, which is page 209, and DA Soares is here. The sheriff's office, page 221, and that is Sheriff Craig Apple. And also the coroners, page 200, and Paul Mara is here. And the Board of Elections, page 196, Commissioners Kathleen Donovan and Rachel Gleddy is here. And then DMV, page 134, and Commissioner Dave Riley is here. So we are ready to start. And I see that the Deputy County Executive, Mike McLaughlin, is already seated. We're ready for your presentation. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee, for another opportunity to come before you tonight, just to give you a quick overview of the County Executive's Office budget. This year's budget doesn't have too much of note, but I will give a quick brief overview. In addition to the COLA adjustments, we are requesting the creation of an additional policy analyst in our office. We have seen a significant increase in the need to focus on criminal justice initiatives. This goes beyond the direct assistance in the management of policy for the criminal justice involved departments, the probations, APD, PD, et cetera, and others who are involved in that role. And into actually what's expanding more rapidly is special projects. So we're talking about LEAD, which is a program that everybody knows, MOTOR, which is a program that frankly is unbelievably successful related to follow-up after overdose and those who are involved in the criminal justice system there. In addition to the partnership we have with the Sheriff's Office, as well as the expansion of the Accord program, and of course the LEAD program, I forgot to mention, is also expanding significantly. It's expanded into north into Waterloo and beyond. So we're to need someone to focus, and we're requesting the creation of that position for that purpose. In addition to that, we have a salary adjustment for Director of Communications, is both a merit as well as an equity raise for a dedicated individual that you all know, who has been with the county for a very long time, and I think his reputation stands for itself. That's pretty much what I have for you that comes to mind right now. If there's any other questions, I'm more than willing to answer those.
Thank you very much. We're going to have a first from, excuse me, Mr. Demolowitz, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, guys, for coming tonight. Just an explanation of why the big increase in the travel budget from 5 to 10,000.
Apologies, that was on my list and I skipped over it, Legislator Demolowitz, my apologies. Yes, so we have, with the increase in special projects especially, there has been an increase in the need for training as well as on-site educational opportunities. One of our analysts actually just went to one. In addition to the fact that the cost of those is increasing, the beauty of, significant inflation over several years. So we are requesting an increase in that to give our staff the opportunity to afford themselves the in-person educational opportunities that do come our way. A lot of those are fortunately subsidized or at a discount through NISAC and things of that nature, but there is still a cost.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Paul.
Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. President.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I noticed in your responses, you talked about performance indicators, which is something that's important to me. County Executive Office is not performance-based in the traditional sense, however, we have periodic reviews. Why wouldn't you have, clearly you have goals in the County Executive Office, why wouldn't you design a plan to measure them? Otherwise, how can you really give out merit performance if you really aren't measuring your goals?
Well, fortunately, we meet all our goals, so we don't really need to measure too much.
See, I understand your sense of humor.
Yeah. So, no, so I believe I anticipated the question for you, Mr. Grimm. But, so we do have goals for each member of the team. Those goals are based usually on an assessment of the project itself, right? So we are actually implementing a project management system, but it's not as data-based as, say, your DSS, where you can say a worker has processed this many applications. In our office, it's much more difficult to judge the success because many times when a project is assigned to an analyst, they may get halfway down the road on it and realize that there's a legal impediment. So is that a failure or is that a success? They may realize that there's a financial impediment that is larger than was originally anticipated, and therefore the project can't move forward, or it can't move forward as originally anticipated. Is that a success or is that a failure? So we really have to be much more flexible with our assessments, and obviously our Director of Policy, as well as everybody on the team, frankly, periodically meet with staff on a quarterly basis and in between to judge their success based on are they getting closer to the finish line. That finish line may end up being a no-go. It may be what in the traditional sense is considered a failure, but in our sense it's considered a success because they've taken an idea as far as it can be taken at that time, and this has happened a few times in my tenure here. That idea is then put on the back burner, and down the road suddenly that idea pops up again. We've done that with a few different projects, and so in that way we judge success or failure and how to improve. Typically it's based on how quickly an individual is able to hit each step of a project and bring those deliverables back, and sometimes those deliverables are, sorry, we're not able to move forward with that project. So that's how we judge success and failure. In many ways, it's how rapidly you can advance to the next step of the
Well,
process.
I'm glad you're thinking about it. That's clear. That's a little vague. But
It is, no, it is 100%.
moving forward, I hope you're trying to be as more specific as you can.
Yeah, we've thought about adding data points to our assessment, but we frequently run into those challenges because you can't give a demerit to somebody for something that's outside of their genuine. I'm not talking about when, you know, somebody actually has control of the situation.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. There are no other questions? Yes.
Can you tell us why longevity pay is going down?
Turnover, so we have staff who are newer, and so we have less folks who are as tenured, and therefore their longevity is gone.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. No other questions? Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Hello, Mr. Headley.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, and distinguished members of the Audit and Finance Committee, and all of our other legislative colleagues. Thank you for having us this evening for this budget hearing. 2025, we have done our best to control our revenue and our expenses as we have in previous years. You'll see that we really have not gone up in any of those categories. The revenue, we maintained at $3 million this year for 2025 again. 2024, we are currently probably about 81% close to what we budgeted for 2024. So it's very difficult with the revenue because it all really depends upon court filings and other additional, incidentals such as, mortgage interest rates and things along that line that really makes that fluctuate as to how much business is being done with the county clerk's office. So we kind of figured if we left it at $3 million for 2025, that would be a good figure, seeing that we're almost 81% there for 2024. And 2024 was not a good year, by the way, because the interest rates were very high this year. So there were not as many filings as we would normally see. So that's why we kind of left it at that. And again, you'll see that we have a lot of openings in the county clerk's office. We've tried our best. The salaries are really kind of low. People come in for interviews, they take a job, they work for us for 2 weeks, find another job where they're going to make more money. So we've done our best to hire the employees and keep the staff up to snuff as it should be, but that has not been working out. Currently, we're paying a little over $31,000 for a Clerk 1 position, but that's regulated through the Civil Service Employees Association union contract. So there's really nothing I can do about that. But we do bring them in, we do interview them. We've worked with our directors and gotten online with several organizations. What are a couple of ones?
Indeed.
Indeed is one of them. They have provided us with names. As of even today, we had 2 interviews set up, and they both did not show for the interviews. So it's become more and more difficult at this level of the salary for a Clerk 1 position to even compete with our other agencies in Albany County. We're doing our best to hire, but as you can see, I still have several vacancies as for Clerk 1 and a laborer, but we're doing the best we can. Our e-recording and e-filing is doing very well. We still have a lot of people that come in that are not attorneys that want to do their own e-recording and e-filing with our office. So we have seen a lot of traffic that has stopped coming in because of e-filing and e-recording. But again, we still have a lot of people that do it on their own, and they come in and they still come in person to get it done. So we're still seeing a lot of traffic when it comes to that. But other than that, we're doing very well. The Hall of Records. I'd just like to note that this year we were very lucky that when we applied with the New York State Department of State for a grant in the amount of $306,000, which is it's $150,000 more than we get through the Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund. Now, this $306,000 was approved by the New York State Department of State just recently and will be going forth to our Contract Administration Board and then on to the full ledge for approval. Now, this is going to be a shared services grant with the City of Waterville. And we're very excited about this program because it's double the number of money we normally get. We're going to be able to get double the amount of work done at the Hall of Records and with the City of Waterville. Our intention for 2025 is to go forth with another grant through the Local Government Records Management Improvement Fund with the town of Bethlehem. Now, again, that will max out at $150,000. We're going to begin speaking with the town of Bethlehem very shortly to see if they even have any interest in this program, and we're hoping they do, because it's been very exciting for all the local municipalities in Albany County that we've worked with already. It has been extremely successful, and we're very excited that we can continue to move forward and move into other municipalities in Albany County to help them out with records management. Now, the one part of records management in the Hall of Records is we are running out of space, and we are running out of space very fast. Craig, can you tell me how many cubic foot of records we currently have?
Yes, Madam Chair, right now we have about 140,000 cubic feet of records. We're pretty much near capacity.
And that's with the expansion that we had in
Yes.
2014, by the way. So, you know, we are working as diligently as we can with the county exec's office and all of our agencies in Albany County to see if we can get destructions done as quickly as we can, to make room for the incoming boxes that they have for us. Right now, they're sitting on pallets because we do not have the room to put them on shelves. I'm going to be entertaining the possibility of looking for another location for holding our record storage in 2025. I'm hoping I don't need that. With the cooperation of all our agencies in Albany County, maybe we can make it happen and we won't have to do that. But as it stands now, we're 10,000 boxes away from needing that help. So those are the few items that I have regarding the Albany County Clerk's Office and the Albany County Hall of Records. We are at full staff at the Albany County Hall of Records, which is great. And I'll entertain any questions that the three of us can answer for you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Devalowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
I'm just, a question, if you can just discuss the increase in the salary for the executive deputy county.
Sure, I'd be more than happy to do that. Geraldine has been working for me well, not for me, but she's been working in Albany County for 39 years now. I'm trying to make her salary commensurate to other department heads within Albany County who are making much more money than she is. She's well deserving of it. She's taken on every job that I could possibly give to her. She's even taken on times where she's worked overtime and collected no pay just to get the job done for me. And she's an outstanding person, and she really deserves this raise that I put in the budget.
So, you requested 116, and then you came back and proposed 120.
Yes, after sitting down with budget and management, we talked about the salary, and we decided that the higher salary would be better at 120.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? Mr. Bergdorf.
It's a real simple one, Bruce.
Yes.
The $8,000 for codes, is that now the normalized price, $8,000?
Well, we left the $8,000 in there because it all depends upon what the legislature does with local laws and other things that need to be incorporated. And you know that we are keeping up with it every single time a new local law is passed. It's sent directly to the codification people, they get it in, and they get it distributed. So we felt that leaving it at $8,000 would be plenty of money to get through 2025. And if it doesn't, I'd have to come back before you again.
So really, $8,000 is an estimate, and you have a contract with them on a unit price basis for
Correct.
each time you update. But, for example, over the last couple of years, $8,000 has been sufficient.
$8,000's been very sufficient. As a matter of fact,
That's-
we've dropped it.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. Mr. Grimm?
Thank you. On item 11 in your responses, you say the county clerk's office and Hall of Records does not have any line item for conference, training, or tuition. Isn't there some need for training some of your employees? Why would be no line for training?
Well, we don't have specialized training outside of the duties of the job itself. And that's trained in-house by the supervisors and the other employees.
Okay, so it's unusual that there's no outside training, but you can handle it basically.
We do it all
People
internally.
teaching each other.
Yes.
The storage question, we're in such a technology age, can't you put some of this on, on the electronic records? Or do you have to keep all these paper records?
Well, believe it or not, we are working as diligently as we can with every single agency in Albany County and the city of Albany, because we are a joint records management program, to see that they do things electronically with their documents, but they still have a lot of records that cannot be destroyed. They must be held for, in accordance with the records retention schedule, from 6 years to permanent retentions.
Even if you save it on a disk, they still can't destroy the paper?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are looking at now with possibly NICID to image a lot of our records at the Hall of Records, but some agencies within the county still want to keep their archive.
It's been very difficult to get them to get a new.
Give away their baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still want their paper.
Yeah, they still want their paper.
We have that problem in the legislature too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr.
I just have a quick follow-up question.
Yes,
You say you have a joint Hall of Records with the city of Albany?
that's correct.
What do they pay you?
We're the only joint records management in the state of New York, and they do give us revenue.
They give money. Yes, they give us $70,000 a year for storage of their records, and they give us a full-time employee, and a part-time hasn't been filled yet, and they pay for their own equipment for their employees. So they do give us some.
Okay, does the $70,000 show in our revenue line anywhere?
It's on page 208, Paul.
Yeah,
Paul,
I think
208.
It's part of the local.
Yeah, it's tied in a revenue line, 01258.
I'll take your word for it.
It's local fees. It's entitled local fees.
Oh, I'm looking in this one.
Page 208,
The big budget.
revenue section.
In your budget book.
Local fees.
I'll take your word
It's in
for
there,
it.
it's accounted for.
Wendy's, it's in there. Okay. That's all.
And we have requested the city of Albany, every couple of years, we ask them for an increase in that fee, but right now, it's at $70,000.
70,000.
Yeah, because that's significantly less than half the cost of the Hall of Records.
Well, they're not half.
They're not half, it's just more county
All right,
agencies.
wow.
Yeah. The biggest box.
Okay. All right, then. Did I see someone else's hand
I'm
up?
fine, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rosano, I'm sorry. Mr. Joyce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That answered my one question. I know with all things identity theft, now we've got deed theft, right? And I appreciate the county clerk on the front page of your website, you have a link now where people can register to protect themselves against deed theft. Is that an automatic process, or do any of these vacancies serve as a backstop? Do they process these requests to block that from happening, or is that an automatic process?
It's part of the package from the vendor. They actually provide the service for us. In addition to, we as the clerk's office, every time a deed is recorded, we send out a letter to the parties saying, hey, there was a transfer on this property, just to give them the alert. But then online, the fraud alert, the customer can put in their name and information, and the system IQS, our vendor, will tell them anything comes up that's filed with their name, they get an alert.
It's a great tool, thank you.
Yeah, it was something that we were very excited to implement. We were one of the first counties in New York State to do it, by the way.
And so no vacancy impacts that, then, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Ellen Rosano.
I'll defer to Mr. Miller because I think we were on the same
I
page.
think so. I knew he handled it, but you handled it, but in your response on 14, you had no risk factors for Hall of Records. But when we visited recently, we saw exactly what you're talking about with the space, and there's literally no space. So, I just wanted to bring up to people, we saw it, it's real, and it's immediate.
It's
We had it for
Not something down the line that budget's got to manage. Thank you. You guys know?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, excuse me, Ms. LaVilliard.
Yes, hi, thank you for coming. I had a quick question about your online record searches. I'm happy to see that online viewing is free. Some counties like Schenectady County charge a fee to access their sites. So I hope you continue allowing, free of charge online viewing. The question I had was, you have the vendor, and are the fees that you're receiving, they're from 2016, are they sufficient to cover the vendor fee for this? And any thought to increase any of the monthly fees for out-of-state searchers or, regular in-state searchers?
Well, so far, I mean, it's been doing very well because in 2024, so far, we've collected $120,000 just from online fees. So it's been more than paying for itself at the moment. And we do continue to keep it free for the search, and it's been a huge revenue maker for us, so.
We've done everything in our power to make sure that the residents and whoever else is searching on our app has full access. As you can see, there's $60,000 in the budget again this year to put 10 more years worth of documents online again. So, we're every year, we come to you again for a little more money for that, but, it's well worth it when the residents in Albany County can access our records and not be charged for it.
Yes, I think it's a great service, thank you.
All right, thank you. If there are no further questions, we want to say good night to you, and we just want to thank you for all the hard work that you do and the people in your office.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very welcome. I just want to acknowledge our two other chair people. Mr. Demolowitz is also chairperson of Economic Development, and Mr. Camiso is chairman of Public Safety Committee also. Thank you. All right. And we're moving now to District Attorney David Soares.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to keep our presentation here brief. We're confining our remarks to the four corners of the documents that we've submitted. We'll identify those areas that we believe we have to take a second look at. But I think everything that is in front of you all with respect to the Office of the Albany County District Attorney is actually quite simple. The four items that I will address with you this evening is particularly the lines associated with our investigators. When we originally submitted proposals, we had submitted proposals under the then existing salary lines, which I believe were in the neighborhood of $76,000, $77,000. That was before the official ruling of a proceeding that the investigators were involved in. Those numbers changed to $80,000. And so
Page 212.
the adjusted 2024 budget should reflect the minor difference in salary. At the time that we also filled out the questionnaires and presented our initial plan, we noted here that there were 9 vacancies within the office consisting of prosecutors at every level, positions for criminal auditor as well as criminal law associates. We are very happy to announce that there's a pending hire of 3
criminal law associates, so that the vacancy of 9 is no longer 9, it is 6. And there is also a process underway to bring into compliance the title of criminal auditor. There are 2 titles within the Office of Criminal Auditor that should be brought into the appropriate compliance titles, as they are union members of the Teamsters. And it's my understanding that those titles have to be changed. I believe we requested legislative action for that purpose sometime earlier in the year, but those would be the only issues that I would direct your attention to. We also submitted a budget, as this body is well aware, when we had come before this group last year, when we did not know whether we would continue to receive the funding, the increased rate of funding for aid to prosecution. We have a lot of confidence that that figure will continue to be presented to us here in Albany County, and therefore we were requesting a more permanent adjustment in salaries for the ADAs and as well as other staff members within the office. We had submitted that. That had been removed from the Albany County Executive's budget, but it is still present here, and that, of course, will leave those decisions to the new administration and their engagement with this body. But we wanted to reflect the fact that we did attempt to incorporate those figures for the ADAs as well as the other members of the Albany County District Attorney's Office. Aside from those,
we were also looking to create the position of business office manager by adding some funds from the aid to prosecution grant to our clerk of the works position. We don't so much need the clerk of the works position now, but we could certainly use the business office manager to handle grants and all the finances for the office.
All right, thank you very much. If there are no questions, we're going to say good night.
this is my last presentation to all of you, and we've been before each other for the last 20 years, and I just wanted to say to each and every one of you how appreciative I have been at the level of respect and the generosity that this group has always shown my office and other members of law enforcement. You have a great person that is coming after me here, the Albany County Sheriff. There are difficult times ahead for us in our county, in our law enforcement community, as well as our coroners over there who are the forgotten members of our band. I just want to say I hope that you can continue to support all of the people who do a very important job in this county of keeping this community safe. And with that, I thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to hear from the Sheriff's Department and, of course, from our Sheriff, Greg Aft.
Hi there. You good?
You're good.
So good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present. Our budget this year is pretty much plain vanilla. We have a minimal increase, but which isn't bad considering we closed and settled 5 contractual contracts for unions. As far as new projects for next year, we're going to continue to roll out our body-worn cameras. Our goal this year is to roll them out to EMS. Our correction division has them. Our law enforcement division has them. We want our emergency medical services to have them. We also have coordinated with the hospitals. We'll be connecting a link to the hospitals, so we'll be able to have real-time triage from a trauma doc in the event of some sort of horrific accident or incident that's going on. In addition to that, the only other project that we're going to continue to move forward with next year is our animal shelter. We have a $500,000 grant for that. We've kind of put it on the back burner a little bit because it's been delayed a few times getting the contract back from the state. And of course, we had some preliminary designs that weren't going to work. We want to put that at the correctional facility. And my vision with that in a perfect world would be to have the folks that are staying at the shelter, rebuilding their lives, maybe pay them a minimal wage to go over and maintain it and get them started on earning and working and forcing them back into the workplace. So that's pretty much all the only project we have going. Our overtime continues to be a little bit of an issue. We were deeply in the red this year, mainly because of correctional issues, but we're still able to meet it. We've scraped a lot of lines, and I'm coming to you folks next month with an RLA on that. Other than that, we don't have any asks. As far as new positions, I've reclassified all of the workers in our main office to administrative aides, mainly to give them a living wage. They were all over the charts as far as clerk typists, keyboard specialists, account clerks. So I've moved them all to administrative aides, but again, we did away with a couple positions to pay for that. The only other two positions we changed, I eliminated one undersheriff position, created another chief, and bumped one inspector up. Fire away.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain questions now. Mr. Jabalowitz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just, could you explain the differences in the line changes that you would like to do? So I believe you achieved, so you add a few more deputies.
To get more deputies? I didn't put in any for any additional deputies this year, sir.
I thought you were looking for 5 more.
No, I didn't put in for any. I will say this, though, our call volume continues a 10% increase every year. This year, we're averaging around 450 calls per day, which is a lot. And next year, I probably will need some staff. Quite honestly, right now, Gary, I got 20 open deputies, and I'm struggling to fill them. So I'd love extra deputies, but I can't fill what I have right now, so I'm kind of sitting tight for 25.
The training in the jail overtime, is that because of not getting enough COs to sign up?
Yes and no. I mean, as you all know, I run with a plethora of open COs all year. But it's also because I'm averaging about 1,700 mental health cases a year. And when I say that, I mean those are one-on-one watches, which means I have one officer normally on time and a half for 24 hours staring at that person to make sure they don't harm themselves. With the closures of some of the medical centers locally and the backup and overcrowding in the ERs, some of these folks are just going right into the jail. And yes, we can get them treatment, but it is a heavy burden on my staff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Mr. Bergner.
A couple of quick questions, Craig. The body cameras for EMS, are there any HIPAA considerations for that? And do you have to segregate that data and limit access to it?
Well, we keep all the data and videos locked down. Very limited staff, mostly commanders and supervisors have access to the videos. They can replay and watch their own video, but there's no redacting or editing. But it does not touch HIPAA at all. The whole purpose is, you know, sometimes EMS are the first on the scene. Hopefully we can capture whatever we need. Maybe it's life-saving treatments, or maybe it was a crime that occurred. So I'd like to get all of our staff outfitted. I will say this, Paul, that next year, it's a heavy bill. I mean, everybody wants transparency, as do I, but it comes with a heavy price, and Axon is by far not cheap. And next year, it's somewhere around $750,000. But I'm paying for that actually in '24, which is good and bad, because '25, now I gotta come up with that additional cost.
Second question, and I'm not sure what the correct answer is to this. I don't know if there is one. Obviously, the needs for an animal shelters in this county are intense, as we all know, especially with everybody being at capacity and not enough people to staff it, et cetera. Is this the sort of thing that you would consider, I know it's a secure location at the jail, having volunteers?
Absolutely. It's not gonna be within within the secure fence. That was
Okay.
initially what I was going to do, only because I thought we could do it easier, but it wouldn't be. So our goal would be to put it out, I don't know last time we've been in jail, but our goal would be to put it out in the parking lot, out front where our firearms trailer is, and build it there. We have easy access to the utilities, power plants right across the lot, so that would be our goal. But again, we're not looking to have some massive construction. We're looking at something that's pre-built, kind of a plug-and-play thing. And, we only have, I think, $750,000 towards it, 500 on a grant and monies that we had set aside for it.
Well, I just let you know that there are a lot of people that used to volunteer other places that for whatever reason are no longer doing that. And there's some pretty quality people out there.
It's a massive problem. Every municipality in the county is struggling. And as you know, the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society is filled. And of course, then they passed a law last year which really restricted some of the size of the kennels and everything else, which to me was foolish. But we're working within it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Ms. Petto?
The animal shelter that's funded with a grant, will that be sustainable after next year? Or are you anticipating additional grant funding?
Well,
How will that?
the grant funding would be to basically buy the building. As far as personnel, we work closely with Mohawk Hudson. They're a partner in this. And as Mr. Bergdorf mentioned, I'm sure the volunteers would come out of the woodwork to help us. We don't expect any massive expenses other than the purchase of the pre-built building.
The personnel to oversee it?
Well, as I mentioned,
Gonna be
Mohawk Hudson would be involved, and then
Great.
my ultimate vision would be to get the folks that are in the shelter to come over and chip in.
Great, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Yes. Okay, go ahead, Ellen.
Hi.
I don't know about this, the ship shelter, is that located at the jail itself?
Yes. If you look at the jail, if your back is to the airport and you look at the jail, it would be to the southern portion of the jail. There's a wing that comes off the jail and heads towards the runway. That's the portion of the jail that we refinished to house our homeless.
So it's homeless women?
It's homeless men. We do have some women in there, but we have another wing that's gonna go online that's basically sad, but it will be for women and children. There's a lot of women and children that are homeless, sleeping in cars and parking lots and et cetera. This wing would be more dedicated for women and children. What we've done, and again, that was the result of a grant from Congressman Tonko. What we have done is, if you can envision 25 and 25 cells, the next second level kind of cantilevers over like 8 feet, or where that cantilever's over, we've dropped walls in, and so there's 3 rooms that basically become a suite. Sounds kind of foolish because it's a jail, but they become a suite. So if a mom comes in with 2 kids, she can sleep with those 2 kids or 3 kids close and not have them down the hall locked in another room.
How do they get there? Most of our shelters are here in the city,
Mhm.
so people can walk to them, or, so how do people get from homelessness all the way out to the jail?
So a majority of our homeless come from inmates. 66% of men and women getting out of the correctional facility have nowhere to go. So if you have nowhere to go, there's a really high percentage are coming back soon. So they get out and we try to get them into the shelter, come up with a reentry plan, maybe continuation of services, maybe it's mental health, domestic violence, PTSD, whatever the case may be. Or they're just down on their luck and they need a job, so we show them how to build a resume, get them dressed, show them how to use a computer, get out there and work.
Thank you.
Yes, Chairwoman.
So what is the census at the jail in different categories?
The
Inmates?
correctional facility
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
All right, right now, we're around 501, 502, somewhere around there. We fluctuate 20, 30 a day based on admissions and discharges. We have about 101 boarders, which is lower than normal. So if you take the 500 minus the 100, we have 400 county people incarcerated in the correctional facility.
And so what is the level of staffing that matches just those individuals who are incarcerated?
So that's very hard for me to explain because we have a classification system, 1 through 5. 1 would be a worker, 2 would be based on prior incarceration charges, an assessment when you came in, and then it starts to climb from there. 4 would be your more violent, and 5 would be a medical. So we have them spread all out. When the HALT Act was enacted a couple of years ago, it changed corrections in New York State. And the HALT Act was created to stop long-term segregation based on a horrific incident that occurred in New York City. The problem that I have with the HALT Act, Madam Chairwoman, is the simple fact that they looked at New York City and said, every correctional facility is a mess and we need to fix this. And I couldn't be more proud of the men and women that work for me up there. They work hard, they've come up with national recognized innovative programs, but we've all been punished as a result of this. So now, if you encompass bail reform into that equation, we only have the very violent going to jail. And with that, they're fighters, they're contraband smugglers, they're master manipulators. So we try to spread them all out. So I have some housing units open that may only have 10 inmates on it. And it's basically to keep my staff safe and to keep other inmates safe. But that's kind of how we had to evolve in 2024 corrections.
So the staffing, I don't really understand. So, but there is a staffing that is
Yes, our staffing.
matched
Yes.
to the incarcerated.
Yes, our staffing table is given to us by the State Commission of Corrections. They come in, they do a staffing analysis, and then it's forwarded down. I haven't had one in several years. We've asked for them, but we haven't had one. But we haven't changed much. Yes, our census is down, but we're dealing more with the more vulnerable type inmate. The mentally ill has increased exponentially. The violence, and the assaulters. So right now, I'm still looking at probably 60 vacancies at the correctional facility. We do a 2 inmates on, or 2 officers on every tier. Try to never have an officer alone. Some of the larger units with the housing units, we call them, they have 3, 1 in a cage, and then 1 on each side that's in with the 50 inmates.
And then what is the census of these, kind of the homeless housing?
Right now, we're probably 32, 35, somewhere in there. But again, we also, we're not a dumping ground. A lot of people will call us from other shelters or sometimes from treatment centers and try to drop somebody on us. We have an assessment that we go through too. Listen, the name of the game here is to get you back on your feet and go back out there and be healthy and productive, just like everybody in this room. So, and we've had great success doing that. But, you know, people say, well, they stay in there too long. We did have one individual in there for over a year, but that individual also graduated college while he was in there, and now has gone on to pursue his bachelor's degree. We've had people in there for a couple of days that it wasn't a good fit for them and they left. All we ask is show progress. Go get your mental health counseling, apply for a job, make your doctor appointments. And that's kind of, listen, we're still learning. We've housed inmates for a gazillion years, so this is new, but it's working.
And I guess one more question. So a year or so ago, we had some of your staff come in and talk about the level of overtime was just not sustainable, and essentially, you know, they were working just a number of hours that didn't sound, like it was just prudent for, you know, for an individual to be working that much. And secondly, you know, they're in the, you know, public safety, security field, and I would imagine that, you know, we don't want overtired individuals. The level of overtime that Gary mentioned is, you know, pretty sizable.
Yeah.
You know, what's happening with respect, do you have a limit on overtime that you allow?
Well, I mean, the Fair Standards Act and DOL, I think, limit me to that. Nobody up there was working more than 16 hours a day. A lot of the overtime is volunteer overtime. I have a couple of women up there, correction officers, that are gonna make a lot of money. They're gonna make the newspaper this year. But with that, we've had the openings, and we have continuous retention and recruitment issues that we're battling constantly. We've also had pretty decent luck with the state as far as they have they're starting to change the process. It used to be 1 or 2 tests a year, then they went to a pilot program that really worked, and then they stopped it. So, and we got it back again, and then they stopped it. So we're trying to work with that. And basically what that is they go on civil service, put in their information, they get graded similar to our EMS or our EMTs, and a list is created. So, you know, we're constantly hiring. I just swore 4 in on Friday. But unfortunately, for every 4 or 5 that we hire, we probably lose 1 or 2 once they, you know, get in there and realize this isn't for me. And then, of course, we have guys hitting their 25 years and getting out of there immediately. So a lot of the overtime, again, is because we have inmates all over the place up there in different housing units trying to separate people. And again, the mental health that are coming in on one-on-one watches show, those are 24 hours of overtime right there per person. If there's a hospital detail, which I have several of, minimum of 2 inmates on an inmate, or 2 officers on an inmate. So it adds up, you know. I give them a lot of credit. They're in there a lot. They work hard, and they're keeping that place safe. And but I do deal with the union constantly about recruitment issues. We send them everywhere. We have them going out at tables of fairs all over the place trying to get people to come in. It's just a job that has changed quite a bit, and probably not for the better in the last few years.
Thank you. Mr. Moriello.
Yes, there's going to be a new chief in the city of Albany, police chief, and I was wondering, are you going to continue having your deputies patrol the city? If not, will you be cutting back? How may that impact your budget?
I don't know if a new chief is going to help some of the issues in the city much, to be honest with you. I have no intention of rolling anything back. They were out today and they're busy as anything. I'll meet with Brendan once he gets in there. I haven't had a chance to catch up with him. I know everything just broke last week, but I don't see anything changing as far as us, mainly because of their manpower issues as well. I think they said on the news the other day they're down 60. I think that's probably a low number. So I'll have a chance in the next couple of weeks to probably catch up with Brendan and see if we can collaborate on a few more things.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Miller.
Going back to the correctional overtime, just on the budget side of it. First of all, I do see your signs all over the place. They're right up my neighborhood, so I know you guys are out there trying. But those issues aren't really gonna go away too soon, most likely.
Right.
So you're at 4.4, 5.3, now it looks like this year's gonna be almost 7 million, right? But budgetarily, you still go to 2.5. You might have answered it through some other questions, but can you bring it all together? Why
Yeah,
we're
so
keeping it 2.5?
we have asked for increases in the overtime over the last few years. It normally doesn't happen, but what we do is we're able, because of the vacancies and everything else, we usually just scrape all our lines. Like I just submitted an RLA and I'm coming to you folks with it either at the end of this month or next month with all kinds of, basically we scraped every single line just to try to meet it. And we will cover it. It's not something that I'd like to do, but again, with the amount of vacancies that we have, we're usually okay with it.
So structurally, it's like a hopeful 2.5 million,
Yeah.
we're really gonna fill those jobs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I will say that this year was a bit of an anomaly as well, Matt, because, I mean, we went way up on our hospital details. I'm hoping that's just a spike and we can come back down, and I don't see that as something that's gonna continue. Although the mentally ill coming in, I don't see that changing.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. If there are no further questions, we want to thank you, of course, for your great service that you provide, and especially those that are out all over the county, including the city of Albany. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. All right, we're on to the coroners, page 200. All right, good evening.
Madam Chairman, and all the other legislators here, thank you for having us. We've answered, I believe, all the questions that you had of us. Basically, we're looking to have a part-time assistant become a full-time secretary in our office. We're looking to get some monies for some help with us on weekends and other times when one person we're covering the whole county. It sometimes gets a little much. some of the other items on here, we really have no control over. The number of cases, there's a graphic there showing how the number of our cases are just going up and up and up every year. So all these cases that were autopsied, they all need to be, have toxicology done. And the prices for the toxicology labs and just the sheer numbers of cases brings those numbers way up. So there's our major differences are from last year.
All right. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain questions now from the members. Mr. Jamalowitz?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Could you tell me something new about clothing allowance for $4,000?
Well, in the past, we've never gotten anything in our budget for gloves, body bags, personal, the Tyvek suits. We're looking to get maybe even a respirator for each corner. We go into these scenes sometimes, and now the fentanyl is all over the place. And I know personally of police officers who have been overcome walking into a scene. So that's what we're looking for, just something to protect ourselves going into the fentanyl. I mean, we can breathe it in and we can be overcome or killed.
So
we're just looking
it's
for
not
some-
actually clothing?
No, it's not clothing.
Well,
It's
there's
supplies.
also like reflective vests and stuff
Yeah.
when you're out on the highway. Look what happened to the trooper and the tow truck driver the other day. You know, we have to be seen just like the rest of the people
Sure.
out there when we're out on accidents and homicides and stuff. And we need to have that. Also, we have to recover bodies in burned buildings. And you can't go in there in street clothes. You have to have
We're
turnout.
looking for maybe something that just says corner on it, because we go to scenes sometimes. Who are you? What are you doing here? You know, so.
They don't.
We've never had, we've always, I provide my own. I own a funeral home, so I have all that equipment I bring with me, but I pay for it also.
Can you explain the 25,000 increase in per diem?
It's 45.
40,000?
Well, again, what we're looking for is, our weekends are 60 hours straight.
70. For me, it's 70.
Well, he works the day before the weekend, so that makes him on 72 hours straight. So it's a lot of hours, nonstop. Phone's ringing 24/7, and we're going nonstop. So last year, we tried to, well, I spoke to other surrounding counties that have deputy coroners. And I spoke to the county attorney. Unfortunately, I never got a response until after we put 25 or 20,000 in our budget last year that we could never use. I was informed after the fact that in our county, the way the charter is set up, we cannot have a deputy coroner. We need to hire coroner physicians or licensed medical doctors. So I've spoken to Dr. Daly. He's at Albany Medical Center, and he has a team of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 doctors that may be willing to cover for us or do some help for us, going out on scenes as a coroner's physician. However, their fees, he says, we normally get paid $200 an hour. So a 60-hour weekend, it's $12,000 for one weekend. So obviously, we're not looking to get every weekend, but we look for that 45,000 and try to get ourselves some help.
Well, we looked at that during the last charter revision, medical examiner. And the major cost of a major medical examiner was really prohibitive from switching from a coroner system to a medical examiner system. But there might be some kind of, conduit we can have both somehow.
It's possible, but then again, it's going to have to be a charter change.
You can have a deputy coroner.
We
If
can
you
have-
change,
yeah,
well,
you've changed the charter.
if you change the charter so they don't have to be a physician. I'm not a physician and I'm a coroner.
And, but the county attorney.
But the medical examiner has to be a doctor, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's what we're looking at when we're looking at the charter change as a medical examiner.
Yes.
That's different.
Trying to get a physician out at 3 in the morning over on Arbor Hill.
They do not go out at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, medical examiner's not gonna leave, he's gonna do the autopsies, he's gonna sign the death certificates. He's not going out at 3 in the morning
That's right.
to do an investigation. That would be your death investigator.
I worked for the medical examiner's office in Rensselaer County for 2 years. They never, ever, ever go out on call. Schenectady County has a medical examiner. They've never gone out on call. They never go to the scene. They have investigators. In Schenectady County, they have 1 investigator. Rensselaer County, they had 5 or 6.
Would that would the medical examiner's salary, would he do autopsies?
Yes.
So that would offset the autopsies, because you got an increase in revenue fees, so we could save money on the autopsy side if we had a medical examiner?
You would, yeah, you could save money that way, but I don't know what a true medical examiner's salary would be, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you would need a deputy.
And there's no
also.
way you'd have one, you'd have to have two, possibly
You'd
three.
have to have two. Right now, we have Dr. Ind and Dr. Mahler, and they can barely keep up. So.
You need at least two, possibly
You
three.
need at least, yeah. So, and
And then you're gonna
they're
need
hard to
5 or
find.
6, you're gonna need 5 or 6, at least,
Oh,
death
more than
investigators.
8.
And the death investigators in Rensselaer County, I know them all, they're $60,000-$70,000 a year.
Well, you know, thank you for your service, because that's a position in the county that
I
really goes
appreciate it.
unrecognized for the type of work that you do.
We're the last responders,
Yeah, we appreciate
not
it.
the first.
All right. Excuse me. Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, let me ask you guys directly, because you guys do this stuff for a living. Do you think we should stay with the coroner system or switch to a medical examiner system?
You know, I think the way the system is running right now, if we could change and
If we
get
can,
deputy coroners.
if we can stay, hello, we need to stay on point. We're
Well,
talking
no,
about.
there's a big difference in the cost. It is a
But-
it's
but
huge.
We just want to
issue.
stay on
It's
budget.
huge.
Yeah.
I think that if we could change.
It's not this year's
the charter-
budget. That's what we want to stay on, this year's budget.
Okay, but he asked me a question.
And I'm telling you the answer. I'm giving the answer. Thank you. Okay. All right, any other questions on this year's budget for the coroner? If not, thank you very much. All right. I imagine, I just want to say this, before we go to a medical examiner, there is going to be plenty of time for all the discussion that all of the members want. You will see, nobody's going to be left out of anything when it comes to that whole issue as far as that medical examiner is concerned. And plus, he did volunteer some information on the difference, you know, and how many medical examiners it would take, you know, to replace, you know, coroners, or what they do other places too. So we're just gonna stay on the budget tonight, but believe me, when the time comes, you will be afforded all the time that you want, I promise. All right, thank you. Let's move on now to the commissioners for the Board of Elections right now. And information found on page 196 through 199.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you take a look at our 2025 budget, you're going to see that the 2024 budget was 6.7 million, and our 2025 budget is 3.5 million. This is due to a reduction in the elections from 3 to 2, and
Can you move the
also-
microphone over just a little bit, please?
and also reduction in cost for the purchase of new voting machines. We also have some new revenues rolling out in the 2025 budget. We got a grant for the electronic poll books. We're going to need to replace the poll books this year. They've aged out. They're not able to accept the new iOS updates. So the state has offered grants to the counties to help with the cost of that. We also are getting the ballot by mail grant to assist us in the cost of postage for absentees, prepaid postage for those applying for absentees and returning absentees. And also a general elections grant of $81,000 for reimbursement for costs that were brought on by the 2024 general election.
I think additional question we received was asked for some initiatives that we're doing down the road. Some of the stuff that we've been doing is going out into the community as well a lot.
Some of our county legislators were present at some of those events, where we do voter outreach programs with seniors, people with disabilities, a lot of pre-registrations for students in local high schools. We're getting a ton of them. We're putting on presentations. We're showing them how to utilize the voting technology so that when they go and they use it, they're more familiar and comfortable with it as well. Another thing we did was we requested a increase in salary for our deputy commissioners who work very hard. And we feel that their salary has never really been appropriately raised to the levels that are proportional to what we see in adjacent counties that have similar population, voting populations. So given the amount of work that they do and the amount of responsibilities and the increase in the ever-expanding operation, we are requesting to increase their position by $10,000, but obviously would be grateful to any increase that they do receive.
All right, thank you. I do have, I'm going to just take the liberty because I have a couple of questions myself.
Sure.
On the prepaid, I was just looking at this, the prepaid return postage, okay?
Yes, the grant.
I guess what my question is how many absentee ballots do you send now, and how many are actually returned?
So we get this question a lot now because people are often comparing 2024 to 2020 because they're both presidential election years. In 2020, we received 31,000 returned. We issued 38,000, but don't forget the circumstances were different. It was during COVID.
Are you talking about absentee ballots?
Yes.
Say that one more time.
Yeah, I know you're impressed with the amount of work we did. Yeah. But that was 2020. In 2024, this year, where they did change the law, and now we have what's called early mail ballots, which is sort of the same thing as absentee ballots, right? But you don't need an excuse to apply for them. The only difference is you have to reapply year to year, as opposed to an absentee ballot, which you can become a permanent status with. But the total requests we received this year so far, well, the request we received was 16,000. And so far about 9,000 have been returned. But as you're aware, they can still be received back for a week after Election Day, so we still may get more in the mail.
All right, so 16, 9 come back. And so when you talk about prepaid, how does that work?
We have to pay for any postage that is used. In other words, if the envelope is not mailed, we don't pay for it. It's just pre-printed with a permanent imprint. We only pay for what is used, but this grant will help offset the costs associated with the postage. And in addition to that, we can also use it for the printing of envelopes, and we can also use it for the printing of mailing services and printing.
All right. I have one more question.
Sure.
The other thing I noticed at 2 of my polling sites, one polling, I'm talking about 3 right now. One polling site had the actual machine that printed the ballots, but the
Correct.
other 2 did not. So how are you distinguishing? I thought we paid for, ballots on demand.
Okay, so good question. We do have 2 systems right now in place where some utilize them and some don't. And there's a very practical reason for it. In locations where we have multiple election districts, more than 1 or more than 2, we actually use them. And it's an important thing because you want to make sure that the correct ballot style gets to the correct voter. In polling locations where we don't have multiple election districts, we've opted not to use it because it makes no sense. Because the poll inspector only has 1 booklet of ballots that they need to be worried about to distribute. So why waste printing, ink, and additional costs that may be associated with the actual printing itself? It's just not practical. So in some locations where you have multiple districts, we use it. In locations where we don't use it.
And we also don't have enough equipment to send them to all poll sites.
Okay,
Right, that's true too.
Because both polling sites had 2 election districts.
Right.
That I'm talking about and did not have.
Correct.
Ballot on demand.
Right,
Okay.
because it makes no sense, because the voter just goes up to the correct table, there's only 1 ballot style there.
Okay.
The inspectors then have to choose between 3, for even two different ballot styles.
So how many machines did we pay for?
Did we, well, most of the machines we use grants for,
I'm talking
actually,
about for
which
the
is
ballot on
positive.
demand.
Are you talking about voting machines or ballot on demand
Ballot on
machines?
demand, I thought that was new. That's the newest thing.
Right, so we have about 134 blue cabinets and about 25 gray cabinets, so about, let's say about 150 units. And what we've been doing is we've been purchasing them piecemeal because we've been fortunate to receive grant funds to pay for them rather than use county money to do it. The problem we have, and we're happy to submit a massive budget where we purchase hundreds of them, we're happy to do that. However, we're officially out of space. And so I would like to echo some of the things I've heard from County Clerk Hidley, that, you know, perhaps the county could take a greater role in sort of looking at, you know, space needs for some of the departments, particularly us. We are storing cabinets now in rooms that were not made for storage. So you're like, it's completely overrun by equipment in our office. And we were fortunate to be visited by a group of county legislators, including Legislator Miller, who came by to look at it to kind of show them some of the obstacles we're facing in terms of storage. So anything that we can do to remedy that issue down the road would be greatly appreciated.
All right, thank you.
Follow up on that. Do you think it would be this
Wait,
budget
excuse
year
me,
where you're on
excuse me. Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Yes, Mr. Grimm.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. On this $10,000 bump for the deputy commissioners,
Yep.
in the budget on page 198, it has 2024 83.7 and then requested 2025 83.7. So where did the 10,000
It
explain
doesn't
it?
show, it does, we just requested it.
But don't you put that, don't you submit?
No,
the
we
budget?
don't control that. The county executive's office controls the actual salary increases. So the way we operate with it is we simply write the memo, put in the request, and then we just assume that it's negotiated outside of these figures.
Can I chime in?
Yeah,
for a second?
David, yeah.
So what shows up in the request is what's entered into Munis as the actual budget request. That came down on a separate memo.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Demolowitz.
Thank you, Mayor Chairman. You said that we didn't have enough equipment. Can you just explain to how that's possible, because we have less polling places now?
Yeah, so it's not that we don't have enough equipment. We have sufficient equipment to address polling locations where we need it in terms of ballot on demand systems. Not voting machines, not the scanners, just the ballot on demand printing printing machines. So we have a sufficient amount in terms of that, but if you're really looking to transition the whole county to a ballot on demand system, then no, we would have to purchase additional equipment. The question is, you know, is it practical in some locations? Not necessarily, but can we absolutely use them in other locations? Yes. And I will say this, that when you look at the legislation that's being proposed and enacted in the state level, they're transitioning more to these voting center concepts. And so now they even want us to transition to a mixed voter center concept and designated poll site location on election day. So as if you can't complicate elections enough, we're going to add this additional element, which, you know, could be beneficial, but you'd have to educate the public as to how they would be utilized. So for example, the Albany County Board of Elections office would be a voting center whereby anyone in the county can vote at it, but then they also have their designated poll sites where only people designated to those sites can vote at that. So if you're looking at the transitions we're making on the legislative level and in terms of our operations, then yes, we're absolutely going to have to invest in more of that type of infrastructure down the road.
Well, if you can do that with just the Board of Elections, why can't you just go countywide anywhere in the county and vote?
Well, we may head that way down the road.
Speaking of the public, how is that being perceived with the new polling places?
We only had like minor complaints. We didn't really have widespread complaints about the polling places because not everyone had lost their polling site that they previously had. So, you know, there were one or two people who did complain, but, you know, other than that, it really wasn't widespread.
And I think the reason why absentee ballots are up, because you took off the limit of how many one person can bring in.
No, there was
Excuse me?
never a limit.
Oh, I kid.
We're gonna stay budget, we're gonna stay on budget, we're gonna stay on budget, just as I told Mr. Grimm. Telling you too, okay, stay on budget, okay, all right.
My brother.
All right, now, Mr. Miller.
Just on the space issue, do you think because we did see it, will it fall on this budget year, or you think we'll be able to push it out to 26 or 27? Or
We
you gotta run
need
out this year?
space, we need space, but, as you know, we don't control our personal space and where it's gonna go and how that happens. Under election law, the county legislative body is actually responsible for designating a suitable and appropriate space, but then I know that in terms of the charter itself, in terms of negotiating who controls that aspect, that's a whole different issue out of my purview, and I'm not getting into it.
Right, but you think you're gonna run out this year?
We're out.
You're already out.
We're out of space. And, we do invite everyone in here to sort of, see and witness what we're talking about. It's not a secret.
Thank you.
Okay. Chairwoman.
Yeah. First, I want to thank you both for your heavy lift just a couple of days ago. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We had an issue first thing in the morning at one of our sites. Actually, one of our candidates was notified. I gave her your cell number, Kathy, and she texted me back saying you were on it. So appreciate the quick work, and I know you guys do that all day long. So appreciate all the behind-the-scenes stuff that makes it look seamless and easy, and I know it's not. Very, very much appreciated. My question is about the charts on that you supplied related to, it looks like the number of active registered voters is increasing, which is good.
It is.
The number of election districts is declining and has declined, which, a lot of us were very upset about. Doesn't seem to sync up with the fact that the number of registered voters is increasing. And I see that we actually get in Bethlehem the newly registered every month, and we're seeing more folks registered. And the number of election day poll sites is going down. So those data points to me don't kind of add up. I would think that polling sites would not be diminished if we're seeing more registered voters. And I would think that, and I would encourage you to look at, in 2025, look at the election districts again to figure out how we can get back up. We're down, it looks like, I didn't realize this, but almost 100 election districts from 2022. And that really does potentially disenfranchise participation in the democratic process in our towns. So I hope we can have as a priority to go back to looking at the EDs and kind of right-sizing that. I know there's a lot of interest on the Democratic side of the aisle to do that. And I also would encourage us to really think through any efforts to diminish the number of polling sites. We are known in the county, and again, thank you for all your work on this, but we don't have long lines, and we do tend to move people through really quickly. And the poll workers and inspectors are exceptional, and I know you do training and make sure that they have all the training and skills and everything they need. I would hate to see us, though, by virtue of diminishing the number of polling sites, to alter what I think is a really good recipe. So I would hope we would relook at that for the next election cycle.
Thank you.
Well, I know we had really no plan to diminish the number of poll sites.
No, the number of poll sites have only slightly decreased, and it was not because it was intentional, it's because of a variety of reasons. It could be they didn't want us anymore. or it was a school and they have safety issues, they just don't want us there anymore. I'm not opposed to having additional poll sites. I don't disagree with you in terms of that. The number of election districts don't correspond to the number of poll sites that are required.
No,
So
I
it's a
understand.
separate operation. But the problem that we have is we're always caught between a rock and a hard place in this respect. And I think you'd appreciate in terms of like the state, county level stuff too. For us, it's like the county municipality issue. We always prepare our chargebacks, because we charge back to municipalities the cost of running these elections. And then they get our bills, and it's an all-out freak out. So, you know, they're always encouraging us to not increase their costs. So there is this aspect to this issue in terms of designating an increased number of poll sites that we have to do carefully. You know, maybe there's like a compromise in between, of course, you know, given discussions with the local municipality and their understanding that there's gonna come an additional cost associated with that. So, you know, there's always that to consider. The other issue is that the ballot on demand systems do make it a more efficient system, and in terms of training the inspectors, but, you know, it's something we're always open to. But I will say this, that when you look at other counties with similar number of voters, they have like not even close to the amount of poll sites that we have, which is largely why we don't have 6-7 hour lines or even 1 hour lines. So we do have a large number of poll sites, and I'm happy to look at what the rest of the state does so that you can have a reasonable understanding of what other counties are doing when you're taking a look at this. So like, for example, Dutchess County, which I always use because they're similar in number of voters, they have their operation's almost half the size of ours. But I will also say this, our early voting sites, we have more than most counties have in terms of number of voters we have, and we have above what the state law requires us to have too. So we do have a lot of early voting sites as well. But I just would like you to keep in mind that there is this issue of chargebacks to municipalities, and that, you know, they're not always happy with us.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay, we winded down on this. Stay on budget, please, thank you.
Yes, this is about the budget. Your charges for election day staffing. So my question is, recruitment and advertising for election inspectors. How do you go about that? My experience in a couple of election districts this time around, we had election inspectors who just didn't show up that day. They were elderly because obviously they can take, you know, they don't work and they can volunteer time. So I was just wondering what you do as far as recruitment and age of inspectors, things like that, and how that could improve if you've got a shortage of
Well, we do
inspectors.
send out postcards frequently, well, once a year, asking people if they'd be interested in being poll workers. There's also a box on the registration form if you're interested in being a poll worker. And there's also an online application if you're interested in being a poll worker. We get probably between 6 to 10 people interested every day. I forward them on to the people who do the inspectors, for at least the Democrats. And most of our spots are full, so we kind of call these people and say, you know, we know you're interested, we're full right now, you know, we'd like to put you on a backup list, and, you know, can only fill so many spots.
Okay.
And you also have to have people that are willing to, you know, work a 18-hour day.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you. Any other questions? Good, if not, I just have one. How many people voted in Albany County?
Well, we're not done counting, but right now we're about at 146,000. We're less than 2020. Where we'll end up at the end, despite all the hype and everything else, the increase is down, the turnout's down. I think in 2020, we finished at like 76% countywide. Now we're like around 69%. So there is a decrease in turnout.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but those numbers will change as absentees come in, but not statistically much.
It's the same nationally.
It's the same nationally. There's a major downturn in turnout.
Because everyone got a mail ballot.
Yes, true, Partially, yeah, that's partially. I just want to say one thing, I just want to thank Kathy for her service. As you all are aware, sometimes working in a bipartisan manner is not always easy to do. You don't always agree on the issues, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to like have a beer together, right? And want to. So I just want to thank her for her service. She's putting a lot of time and effort into our operation as well, and I do appreciate it as well.
Okay, thank you.
We're done, right?
Okay, for our last item for tonight, Mr. Riley, are you ready?
You sure you don't want to do this next week too?
All right.
So as a kind of a general overview, Department of Management budget as a full department, not a lot of big changes. There was one budget, in terms of staffing, there's one additional body in the entire department. That was a person who had existed, they were previously a department head, they retired to come back on a part-time job in another department. They previously existed in that department last year. We moved them in 2024, we moved them into our budget for 2025 to work specifically on grants. The other moves were kind of, delete one position, add a position for a couple different reasons. There was one in my office where someone has taken on some increased managerial tasks to help run the department. So her job title changed. There was a small incremental salary bump included with that as well. There were two other ones that had salary increases, one in finance, that was due to some basically, let's say HR dictated that a salary change due to some issues. I can get into some more details off the camera if you'd like. And then the other one was the management and budget admin had taken on a whole bunch of extra roles as we had switched through and kind of grown the department. So she got an incremental raise as well to kind of bring her in line with the admins for similar sized departments. So I think that goes through some of that. There's some questions about the enhanced pay and accrued liability lines that are in 1340. Those are there kind of for the entire executive department suite. So rather than have those lines in each set of departments, in case, for issues when, say, a department head leaves, they have a certain amount of payout that has to come through, rather than tie that line up for, months at a time, this can kind of be utilized to tap into. We do the payout through that line, and then it doesn't hamstring the department where they have to go without a, leadership, or the leadership has to be underpaid for months at a time. Similar lines exist in other electeds. Now, there was a question about increase in fees for service in real property. That has to do with increased appraisals. A lot of changes as, the property laws and everything shift back after COVID. We had years where we did not have any foreclosures, things along those lines. Kind of the world's getting back to normal now, so we're playing a big catch-up game. There was a question about the 6989 department, which is hotel occupancy tax. As per the changes to state law that were passed by the Assembly and the Senate this year, an additional half point of tax was added to the total collection. That will go back to the Alliance. The other pieces remain the same, so you have your convention center getting 3%, 2% going to debt service on the arena, and 1% to capitalize Albany, as well as that 0.5% to the Alliance. And I think that covers everything, because the last question was any increases over 3%. There was one additional one on, sorry, I skipped over, on cannabis revenue. For several years, we've had the medical marijuana revenue as one line that's been growing. I believe it was last year or 2 years ago, we added The recreational cannabis, that had a very slow rollout, mostly, hampered by the state, basically not letting the stores open up on the original timeline that they had predicted. There's a specific excise tax of 4 cents per dollar spent on those products. Of those 4 cents, the county gets to keep 1 cent. The municipality where the sale occurs gets 3 cents. We handle the bookkeeping on that. We get the full amount. They give us a schedule of how to distribute it out. So the budget that is in this book was $800,000. That was based on kind of best known estimates at the time of the budget being released. That $800,000 will be $200,000 to the county, $600,000 back to the municipalities. So, any additional questions?
Okay, all right, questions? Mr. Grimm?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. What page is the hotel tax on? Do you have that?
144.
Thank you, sir.
Your estimate is, Dave, is for that 0.5%, 800,000 or no?
1.5% would be 800,000, 1% would be 1.6.
Right, so the Albany County Alliance funding is 800,000 with the anticipation of like a 0.5% of the hotel tax? 1.6. All right, that's all. Thanks.
Mr. Bergdorf?
Dave, 2 questions, do one at a time, obviously. Your grants officer,
Yes.
how is that gonna work with all the departments? I sit here and I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of grants. Sheriff's Department, Social Services, clerk, you name it. Everyone's got access to a grant. Are they gonna continue to work as they are, or is this person gonna be an umbrella person, or is this just your financial tracking of everybody else's grants?
That was a lot more than 2 question marks.
Well, no, it's kind of how is this person gonna work?
Yeah, so it's actually a grants team that we've been kind of slowly building up. We have a coordinator, and then we have 2 people working under her. We're currently in the process of actually rolling out a software platform that mainly it tracks all of the grants that we have, so it can kind of interfaces with the accounting system. It helps the departments, maintain their spend downs, maintain their compliance reporting, make sure that's much easier. The other thing it does is it actually gives us a curated catalog of grant opportunities. And so you can go through this and search it and say, okay, I'm looking for anything that has to do with domestic violence. I'm looking for anything that has to do with drug rehabilitation, street psychology. And you can query it, and it aggregates, hundreds, I don't know if it's hundreds, at least dozens of, public databases, and it constantly updates and refreshes them. So that's one part of it. The main thing is it's kind of a twofold. As you said, kind of one part is to kind of oversee, make sure that each of the sub-departments is, maintaining compliance, not missing opportunities, things like that. The second piece, and this kind of brings into play the part-timer that I was mentioning before, we actually tasked her out to a small department. They were having problems. They had under a previous commissioner, they had issues with not filing for grants that they could have been eligible for, kind of missing out on free money. We embedded her there for a couple of months. They're doing great now. They're getting far more, funding is coming across. You guys thanked, it was veterans. Director Leslie, you guys all seem to be quite happy with his progress yesterday. So, not to throw names in there, but next Karen will get put into another department. And, it tends to be the smaller ones that don't have the experience, don't have grant writers, don't have people that know how to look these things up. The whole point in the long run is to maximize the county's, ability to receive as much in grant funding as possible. Anything that we can, get paid for by another source is one that you guys don't have to get mad at me for.
That's great.
That's good.
All right, thank you.
I have the other question, and this obviously has to do with revenue. Earlier this year, we had to fix some legislation for the cell tax, the increase in the cell service tax, so that the Department of Taxation and Finance would actually give us the money that was being collected and was supposed to be sent to us. And there was $6.5 million that New York State collected, but for want of a clerical, I don't know if it was clerical or technical error, they kept the money and we didn't get it. And I had talked to Mike McLaughlin about reaching out to the governor's office to see if there was any way to recapture that money. Can you give us an update on what the status of that is? Because that would be an extra $6.5 million in found money that is due Albany County from the state of New York.
No, and I understand your frustration with that. Not to speak for Mike, let me check with him. I'll get back and get a response to both staffs, on both sides of the aisle there.
Thank you. I just thought it might have been something that you had dealt with.
No,
in
to my
the
understanding,
course
it's not
of,
something
putting the
that's
budget
forthcoming
together.
at this point.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, this has been your third, okay. I just wanted to say, Mr. Riley has been in front of us. This is his third time now. So you have a question, Mr. Joyce?
Just a real brief one, thank you, Madam Chair. Bus stop arm enforcement program, those are the cameras on the buses, correct? The expense is $326,900 and the revenue is $326,900. I thought we had a 60-40 split with the vendor. I thought there was more revenue than there was expense for those.
There is a split that is just encompassing our piece. They send us what's left after they take their piece out.
Okay.
So we don't see the full.
All right, so I see an expense line that equals the revenue line. I thought there'd be more revenue than there would be expense.
No, the excess revenue is being kept by them. They send us what's left after they take their piece out.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. If there are no other questions, thank you very much, Mr. Riley, for your service and.
Motion adjourned.
Can I get a second?
When's our next meeting?
Wednesday.
No,